I'm sorry, you still can't wear that. It's way too revealing and distracting.
I got fired on the first day at my new job, all because of an outfit that I wore. This is the outfit that I wore. Here's a close-up.
I understand that women want to look good, and feel confident and powerful in the workplace, but there's a right way to do it, and then there's a wrong way to do it.
I mean, just listen to the mantra, look good, do good, feel good. You should be dressing like you're going for the first interview 80% of the time you're going to work.
You've been told it doesn't matter what you wear anymore, just be yourself, right? But what if that advice is quietly sabotaging your success? In today's world of remote work, startup culture, and be your authentic self mantras, dress codes are fading fast, but behind this freedom lies a hidden trap, because the rules may be gone, but the judgments haven't disappeared. In this video, we'll be breaking down how the dearth of formal standards creates invisible disadvantages, and how you can use this knowledge to stand out and get ahead even when no one's telling you how. Let's talk about how what you wear still matters, whether the rules are written or not. Hi babes, my name's Taja, mother of twins, lover of luxe things, and your guide for showing up with style and intention. Let's get into it. We have definitely entered into an era in 2025 where it seems as though we don't know how to dress. And more recently, we have definitely been seeing people experiencing the consequence of not being able to dress. Particularly on TikTok, I think what we're experiencing in real time is an over-adjustment. Definitely in times gone by, let's say pre-millennial era, the Gen Xers and the Boomers lived in a society that I would describe as probably more outwardly judgmental, especially when it came to outward appearance. So there was definitely a time where if you worked in an office, you wore a suit. If you were of a certain age, you wore certain things. Even now, if we look at the way that grandmas are depicted in 2025 to how they may have been portrayed in years gone by, there is definitely a significant difference, right? So I definitely think that in the West, there were more structured fashion norms for people. I think that the general population felt a pressure to conform, and sitting anywhere outside of these norms or dressing anywhere outside of these norms normally resulted in some kind of comment or critique, which would kind of let you know that you're not really following the norm.
These people are worried about how they might be judged by the way they look. That's why they've come to the London Academy of Modelling. They're here to learn how to dress for job interviews.
If I rolled up to a job interview wearing just exactly what I'd like to wear, there's no way I'd ever get a job, simple as that.
And what fell out of that pressure to conform was resistance. We saw the surge in like hippie culture and this idea of just be yourself, be who you want to be. You don't have to conform to social norms. You know, it's all very silly, which in some ways I actually agree with. I do think that we are pressured all of the time to fit into particular norms, which are usually not authentic to our true selves, especially if you are some kind of minority and you're not a man, right? So I can definitely understand the sentiment of wanting to push against what's being pushed upon you. You know, you have to dress a certain way to be in certain environments. You have to present yourself a certain way. You have to do all of these things or you won't be accepted. And so that's silly, which it is. And so what we're going to do instead is do the complete opposite, and we're not going to conform, and we're going to do what we want, and we're going to be authentic. Definitely, as we've moved further and further into the 2000s, I think we have got to a place where it's all slightly unhinged, right? For example, what was trending more recently was the idea of being a work siren or wearing work siren attire.
So I just got back from a job interview and I thought it was going really well. In the end, basically, he implied that maybe I wouldn't get the job because of what I was wearing. What's wrong with this?
Yes, some jobs may be okay with that as business casual or business professional, but you don't know about the company's inner workings until you get hired. So for an initial interview, it's just kind of a rule of thumb to be as basic as possible.
I'm going to show you guys what I typically wear into the office as a corporate girly. Still a little bit, chic without the baddie. We leave the baddie somewhere else. Baddie is not for the office. Baddie's for the weekend.
This was most popular on TikTok. You know, this idea that even though you work in an office, you should still dress as sexy or as appealing or as pretty as you want. And again, I think I understand the sentiment because there are, of course, different rules different societal rules or different societal norms that are applied to men that aren't applied to women. And that can be frustrating. And even particular norms in office settings that are applied to women of a certain body type that aren't applied to women of other body types.
Women who have curvy bodies know that your curvy body is a distraction everywhere. It's a distraction in the office. It's a distraction at McDonald's. It's a distraction at the mall.
So I can see how the idea is if you look good, you feel good. There's no need to go into the office wearing something that's really boring. You should be able to express yourself and you should be able to wear what you want. However, the consequence of this is that the girls are getting fired.
Office siren? Office siren? Oh, this outfit is so office siren core. Bitch! You're an walking HR violation. Why would you risk a 6-figure job in this economy for an office siren outfit?
And I can actually understand why the girls are getting fired. The girls are getting fired because you're dressed inappropriately. I think that the way I have always seen life and even fashion is that there is a utopian land, right? There's a land in which you exist where your race, your gender, how you dress, how you present yourself, how you talk, where none of those things matter. And probably most of us would probably want to live in that land, right? It should be about your work ethic if it's about a job. It should be about how well you do your job. It should be about what you have to bring to the table. However, ultimately, all of those things in real life, okay, which is the other world, in real life, all of these things have an effect on how you are treated and the opportunities that you are given. Right? So a woman who believes that I should be able to wear what I want, how I want, if I want, and whoever likes it, and whoever doesn't like it, right? Ends up getting herself into a pickle where she can't keep a job.
So I just got dress coded during an interview. And then they decided to reschedule the interview with me for tomorrow. But before they rescheduled, the lady was like, would you like to come back? Like go change and then come back? And I was like, no. These are the shorts. Let me turn to the side, y'all. These are the shorts.
And I'm like, girl, now are they jean shorts? No, but they are still shorts. And they're not like, even if they were knee length, it's not freaking appropriate for a job interview.
And the reason why she can't keep a job is because we don't live in utopia land. We live in the real world where none of it's fair. Most of it doesn't make any sense. However, if you want to put yourself in a position where you are successful, and if you want to put yourself in a position where you have access to money, then there are particular rules that you have to play by. Unfortunately, although this is a lived experience for me, it's also not just something I'm making up, right? There have been loads of psychological and social studies that have been done that outline how much what you look like or how you present matters.
Assembling a wardrobe is a serious and meaningful exercise. Based on our looks or background, others are always liable to come to quick and not very rounded decisions about who we are. Too often, their judgment doesn't quite get us right. They might assume that because of where we come from, we must be quite snobbish or rather resentful. Based on our work, we might get typecast as dour or superficial. The fact that we're very sporty might lead people to see us as not terribly intelligent, or an attachment to a particular political outlook might be associated with being unnervingly earnest. Clothes provide us with a major opportunity to correct some of these assumptions. When we get dressed, we are in effect operating as a tour guide, offering to show people around ourselves. We're highlighting interesting or attractive things about who we are, and in the process, we're clearing up misconceptions. We're acting like artists painting a self-portrait, deliberately guiding the viewer's perception of who they might be.
And we're not even going to go into what your foundation is, right? So how tall you are, the colour of your skin, what your hair looks like. I think that's a separate conversation, but we all know that all of those things also have an effect on how you are perceived, right? I actually have a keen interest in sociology and did study it at degree. So I'm very much aware of how much what you look like, what you talk like, what you present like affects how people treat you. And there's actually something called the halo effect. The halo effect was first identified and named by Edward Thorndike, an American psychologist in 1920. The halo effect describes a cognitive bias where our overall impression of someone, often sparked by one trait, shapes how we unconsciously evaluate their other qualities. In essence, one positive attribute leads us to assume everything else about the person is positive without evidence.
So just by having a stylish outfit, people are more likely to assume you have great skin, you're physically fit, you have a symmetrical face, you have attention to detail, you have confidence.
Thorndike undertook a series of studies on different groups of people, with the main takeaways highlighting how quickly one trait can shape overall perception. His studies showed that skewed evaluations often favour the superficially appealing, leading to biased judgments, and also that the opposite horn effect exists, which means that a single negative trait can unjustly tarnish a person's entire image. And so for some time now, it has been proven that it actually doesn't take much to give a bad impression. And so when you are turning up to things like job interviews, it's really important that you think critically about how you are presenting yourself. There are some particular points in time that I think proved to be pivotal in how we decided that we wanted to engage in fashion and in the way that we presented ourselves. And one is social media. Social media influencer and celebrity culture, I think, has really got us all in a pickle. Some of the advice that is given by the most popular, the most notable celebrities and influencers, and even smaller creators that may go viral, has really resulted in a shift that I don't think works to benefit the majority, and in particular, people who are like me. So if you're a woman, you're a black woman, a woman of color, I definitely think that it's a setup, guys. Okay? A time that sticks out to me in particular is when Amber Rose, I know she's on the naughty step now, but when Amber Rose did her slut walk, and of course I'm based in England, I'm based in London, but I think across the world we are all exposed to quite a lot of American culture and American media. And so although not based in America, I definitely had sight of the marketing project that Amber Rose was doing at a particular time, where I actually kind of agree with her argument, which was that you shouldn't have to conform to any particular norms to be treated with respect.
It's kind of more so like you dress how you want, and, you know, people shouldn't judge you. It's, you know, like regardless of how you dress, that doesn't make you a slut. It doesn't make you a whore.
I agree. It shouldn't matter what you're dressed like. It shouldn't particularly matter how you decide to act. All of these things, in her words, if you want to be a whore or if you want to be a slut, then that's your right. That shouldn't affect how people treat you, which in utopia land maybe makes sense for some, right? But in the real world, if you are in public spaces in your underwear, it is going to affect the way that people see you. It's going to affect how you are treated. It's going to affect your access to opportunities. It's going to affect who speaks to you, how they speak to you, how they address you. You know, it's going to affect all of these things. And we have seen this evidence more recently with the number of people who have been kicked off airplanes because of the way that they dress. In particular, there was a lady who had on a blue outfit, which to me gives bedtime, okay? And she was removed from her flight.
We showed other flyers Grayer's outfit and told them she wasn't allowed on her Spirit flight.
Honestly, I don't think that's fair. I feel like every girl, no matter what they're wearing, should be able to express themselves.
Honestly, it's not even bad. The fact that she got kicked off the flight for that is pretty crazy.
I have actually experienced this scenario in real life, not personally, but I've experienced being in a group of people and somebody's asked to go and put on something different before they get on the plane. And although I have seen arguments about this being over the top and it shouldn't be within the airline's right to decide who gets on based on what they look like, and that this kind of power could lead to discrimination, which I see and I partly agree with too. However, I just think that we are living in such an extreme where we have pushed this idea of, you know, you just do you, you just be you, and it has ultimately worked to further benefit those people who are already in a more powerful position in society. Because if you are convinced that you should be allowed to wear what you want, where you want, how you want, then you're never going to be a threat to me, okay? You're never going to be a threat to me and what I have going on, because you're never going to get the job. You're never going to be able to to sit at the table. It's just never going to happen because you don't know how to conduct yourself. I actually think it's an actual setup. I also can relate to it just feeling exhausting, right? Just the idea of having to think about another thing that society expects of you when you just want to be yourself. And I think it's just really important to create for yourself, if you don't have yet, environments where you can feel that way, where you can feel as though you're just being yourself.
If we're staying with good friends, we can spend a lot less time thinking about our clothes, compared with the anxiety about what to wear that can grip us with strangers. With good friends, we might sit around in a dressing gown or just hastily slip on any old jumper. They know who we are already, and they're not relying on our clothes for clues.
I'd suggest those environments be amongst friends or amongst family. You know, there are settings where you can let your guard down and dress how you want and act how you want. And I'd recommend that those times are usually in places that are personal, with people that you trust, and not in professional settings, not in public settings. Guys, no one will ever be able to convince me that it's okay to be outside in your underwear or your night clothes. Okay? Again, might be the Caribbean in me. I'm also a notorious overdresser, okay? I'm always going to be overdressed. If the guide is here, then I'm always going to lean a little above that, right? So if it's like dress formal, I'm going to dress formal. Okay, there's nothing about my outfit that's not going to be formal, because I already understand that I'm entering a room as me, right? So I'm entering a room with an appearance that I can't change in terms of my color, my hair. You know, the way I present just as a human, I can't change that. But what I can do is adjust how I present this person and make sure that how I'm presenting myself isn't working against me. And also, studies have shown that fashion and the way that we present has an effect on how we feel about ourselves. In an article called The Psychology of Fashion, How Clothing Choices Affect Perception, Elufa Innocent outlines how subtle changes in appearance can spark meaningful shifts in confidence and behavior. And they describe how clothing often acts as a physical cue for internal transformation and self-belief. They also touch on the halo effect and how, as I've described, the way you present has a significant effect on the way that others treat you.
By putting on the clothing, it essentially becomes who you are. It's a little bit about a momentary shift in identity.
He has dubbed this effect
and clothed cognition.
The idea that there is a kind of magic to cloth. It can carry moods and abilities that exist outside of you into your bloodstream, your brain, and change you in quiet but measurable ways.
At least temporarily.
Although this shift to authenticity over everything has been, in my opinion, a form of rebellion, I think that this was exasperated even more by the pandemic and the ability to work remote, which I think is a good thing and has really helped everyone be able to have a better work-life balance, which I definitely think was needed. However, I think as a consequence, many of us haven't really had to dress. You know, you can pretty much work from the edge of your bed if you wanted to. However, what I have learned is that it's always important to read the room. You can use Google, you can even use AI now. If you're going somewhere and you're not sure about what you're supposed to wear, if there's no given dress code, you can always do research on the venue, have a look at similar events. Maybe if it's an event being held by a particular host, you can find their social media, find out how people were dressed at their previous events and use that as a guide as to how you should dress. I'd also recommend aiming for one level above if you get an understanding of what the baseline is. So if the dress code is formal, if you have just got your job and the dress code is formal workwear, then I would lean very much into formal workwear. I don't think that the workplace in particular is a place to even in some ways express yourself, guys. I know that it's sad and it probably shouldn't be that way, but ultimately you are always being judged at work. Okay, nobody's your friend, okay? Especially not your manager, they're not your friends.
If you're starting a new job and you go in there and your boss is trying to be paddy, be nice, be cool, just don't cross that boundary. When it comes down to it, she has to fire you. She will fire you. It's really awkward.
You can be friendly, okay? But most of the times they're trying to get an idea of who you are, trying to get an idea of if you represent their company well, if you're reliable, all of these things. So when you go to work, this should be your focus. I think getting ideas from content creators or entrepreneurs, people who work for themselves, celebrities, influencers, about how you should dress can lead you down the wrong road.
Just a PSA, stop taking corporate outfit advice from influencers. These people literally do not work, and a crop top, short skirt, and sneakers is in no way appropriate office attire.
Of course, working for yourself would mean that different rules could apply to how you present yourself. I work for myself, however, I still dress formally. I still choose to present myself in the workplace as very much serious, okay? Very much formal, very much I know what I'm talking about, okay? I choose to say that with the way that I dress every single time I go into work, okay? But of course, if you maybe work in entertainment, or you are a handyman, or you work in marketing, you work in PR, maybe there are different rules or societal norms about what might be acceptable in these environments. All of these kind of roles may have different levels of what's acceptable to maybe somebody who works in an office. So it's just really important to understand where you want to be and where you are existing to determine what is most appropriate. It's not always appropriate to just do you. Guys, clothing can be so powerful and can definitely influence the way that somebody thinks about you and then has a knock-on effect on how they treat you. I'm definitely for squeezing out of life everything you can. And so in some ways, conforming can feel as though you're giving away your power. Okay, well, I'm just gonna make myself bland so that I can fit into these social standards that I probably don't really fit into anyway. And so I feel a bit put out by that or a bit disconnected with that. Or you can see it as I see it, and as I implore everyone who I love to see it, as a way of using your knowledge as power. Ultimately, we are kind of all moving around life telling a story with what we say and how we present ourselves. And so what do you want to say? And ultimately, what do you want to get? Okay. If I know I want this job, if I know I want this position, if I know I want to have a conversation in these kind of spaces, then for me, it's very simple. You know, what do I need to do to get there? Okay, if that means I have to dress formally to get there, or not even that it's going to guarantee it, but if it increases the probability of me getting to where I need to be, then that is what I'm going to do. Okay, and when I'm at home, I'll wear my night clothes. Okay, when I'm at the club, I'll wear my short skirt. When I'm with my friends, I'll wear my crop top. Okay, I just won't do that in places where I'm on a mission. Okay, I'm on a mission, I need to get somewhere. And so I want to present in a certain way so that I can increase my chances of getting there. I'm absolutely not for everybody just being clones of each other. I do think it's important to be authentic, but I think it's more important to mix your authenticity with some awareness. Being ignorant or refusing to accept life as it actually is will only keep you stuck. And so we're not trying to be stuck, we're trying to get to where we need to be. And so it's important that we present ourselves in a particular way. The playing field isn't level, and those who learn the hidden signals will win. Dress codes may, for the most part, be gone, but expectations haven't vanished. And in a world where we're now being told that we should dress however we want and just be ourselves, the people who figure out how important how you dress is quietly rise to the top.